Hey everybody, today I'm joined today by Lee Priest, who needs no introduction, but there is a brand new movie. It's a documentary available on Vimeo called Lee Priest, Rebel with a Cause. I just watched it. It is excellent. Lee, before we speak about it, I think I want to just run the trailer and then we'll get into it, if that's good with you.
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's give this a try. Here we go. And here we go, guys.
I was just dumbfounded that someone could get that big.
He was the newest, freakiest, most impressive phenom that anyone had ever seen.
You would just keep rewinding the video because you're like, how the fuck can a man look like this?
He had the biggest arms I've ever seen on a human being.
The roundness. It's like someone would draw a cartoon caricature. It didn't look like it belonged on his body.
Probably the best times in the history of bodybuilding.
This guy could possibly win an Olympia down the road. You know?
I think my first Olympia could have been 94 or 95, but I got suspended that year and couldn't do it. So I think I'd been suspended my first year as a pro. So.
A lot of people have a valve between their brain and their mouth. And Lee wasn't blessed with that.
Lee didn't give a shit.
Lee Priest would tell you like it was, right to your face. I love him for it. A lot of people respect him. Yeah, but a lot of people can't handle the truth. That's when I realized this guy talks a lot of shit.
He's a little too fucking crazy sometimes.
I kind of liked it about him, but I also found it frustrating.
Yeah, I think he's got in a lot of trouble.
Lee had this rebellious streak in him. If you tell him don't do something, he's going to do it.
At the press conference, he was not afraid to call out all the judges.
I was like, what did he do? Oh, no.
Lee's mouth definitely affected his ability to earn, his ability to gain contracts, his ability to probably win competitions in close decisions.
Would Lee have placed higher if he kept his mouth shut? I think Lee would have placed a lot higher.
You know, a 212er, Lee would have been a multi-Mr. Olympia, unbeatable.
I said, you arrived. This is your best ever. If you keep bringing in the conditioning like you did at this show, you're going to be a top 3 Olympian. And that's how good he was.
You would have fucked that class up. Only politics would have kept him out.
Most of his opinions and thoughts and ideas were positives for the industry, positives for his fellow competitors.
And we felt like prize money could have been bigger, should have been bigger.
First time he did something in the magazine and told the federation that we should have a union, and there were some things said, and you know, the first thing Lee did was like this. And they put it in the magazine. I was like, that's the guy for us right there.
Flex versus Lee Priest. When it's off camera, it's like, I want to kick this fucking ass. I go, and then I'll say, yeah, I want to kick your fucking ass. I had shredded glutes. You didn't have fucking shredded glutes.
There was no growth hormone. I mean, I was giving him everything he was taking.
Proof of why I thought I was so much better than Lee Priest.
They said Lee Priest is a racist, man, okay.
Lee is an equal opportunity offender.
Lee Priest will be probably the most suspended bodybuilder from the IFBB ever. And one of the most incredible short bodybuilders of all time.
Wow. Yeah. So my first question, Lee, is have you seen it?
Yes, I did watch it. Yes.
What how happy are you? Are you 100% happy, 90% happy?
100% happy, because I did that one of Generation 9, which was okay, but it didn't really capture all the people that really know me type thing. It was, and I didn't like the name of it to begin with, Lee Priest versus bodybuilding and stuff. So we had a few disagreements over the whole thing, but this one was done very well. I like it too, because I'm not in it much. So I really don't like seeing or hearing myself. So it's good to hear other people say stuff and that. And the only thing was that the night I watched it, I was eating chicken when sadly got food poisoning that night. So I watched this great documentary. It was like 2 hours, 17 minutes. And at the end, I get all sad because it shows the grandparents and talks about my grandfather passing away and that, and how it affected me. And I'm laying in bed. The next thing, fucking cold sweat, shaking for 2 hours, body's trembling. I'm like, fuck, I'm dying. I said, God, I said, that's the plan, wasn't it? You let me live long enough to see all these people say great things about me. And now it's like, you know, when people, it's like all your peers talk nicely of you. Now you can die in peace or something. I'm like, I shouldn't have fucking watched it. I knew I shouldn't have watched it. I'm going to die. That's how for hours I'm laying in bed thinking I'm going to die. Because it almost was like, you know, at funerals where they put up a montage of somebody's life. I'm thinking, I actually got to see it before I died.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because as I'm watching, I'm thinking, you know, if I was to be remembered anyway, I wish there was something like this that people could have seen all the aspects of me. Because prior to this, I know there's a Generation Iron thing, but you've had a few training tapes and DVDs over the years, but all people see was that joke, you know, the training and the joking and stuff like that. This really, really went into who you are. And like you said, I started writing down all the people they interviewed, and I gave up after like 40, 50 names. It was, I don't know how, they must have had hundreds of hours of interview footage.
Yeah, that's what I said, because I'm sure there's tons. Because I did see, when I was in Melbourne for an expo, they did show me a rough copy then. And a lot of the stuff I seen on that one isn't in this one. So there's a lot of good stuff in that one. There was one, like a story Melbourne told, where there was some guy trying to, I don't know if it's gay for pay or something like that. Because I always said I never did gay for pay, but Melbourne thought he'll play a joke and send this guy over to me because he was hassling Melbourne out. And then later on, I got the mail to say, thanks for sending that guy over. Melbourne's like, why? I go, oh, he brought some of my posing trunks for $5,000. Melbourne's like, what? Fuck, you got $5,000 for posing trunks. I shouldn't have sent him to you.
Wow. No, I mean, how this seems like it took a long time to make. How long ago did MuscleVision, the company that produced this, when did they first start?
I think they started just before COVID, and then with the COVID lockdown, it was hard to do stuff. And Gary and his team really wanted to try to do most interviews in person type thing. So it was, you know, rather than over like this sort of medium, actually have them in a room sitting there. So once everything opened up again, then they could go to shows and try catch up with people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, if I ran down, it would take me 20 minutes just to read all the people that did interviews for this. And at one point I was getting a little of that FOMO, because I'm like, well, why didn't they interview me? And then now that I've watched it, but I realized I couldn't have added anything. I mean, they had pretty much everything that needed to be said about you.
You could have, like, there's a few I would have like you would have been good on there, because you could have talked about the interactions and some of the funny stories when we used to do the columns and stuff. So, you know, there's a lot of, so maybe there needs to be a part 2.
I mean, I hope this does well, and I'm going to do what I can to promote it, because, like I said, I think more people need to see the totality of the human being, not just you, but of any of these athletes. Because, you know, someone like Ronnie, I don't think anything like this has ever been done about Ronnie. I think that'd be great, or Cutler. You know,
even Jay said nice stuff. It's like, you know, Jay would be laughing, and he's like, oh, I love the guy, and that, you know, he's funny, he's always this. But like I said, it was good because it captured the softer side, which I'm like, come on, Gary, you're going to ruin my street cred. People think I'm an asshole. Now you got people telling stories, how even my mum's telling stories where I take homeless people into the restaurants and people give me dirty looks and want to kick me out because I'm bringing homeless people in to feed them and stuff. I'm like, don't tell people I do nice shit. Come on. I've got this reputation of being a dickhead.
Yeah, that was toward the end. And I learned some things here even I didn't know. Like, you sold all your trophies. I knew that, but I didn't know that you gave the proceeds to was it a dog shelter, an animal shelter?
Yeah, the RSPCA, Hunnam Animal Rescue, and a few other places. Yeah, I never kept a cent from all my trophies that I sold.
Yeah. Another thing is that press conference where you had the long hair. What year was it? I don't know.
2003.
2003. So you offered to donate your prize money or parts of it to the guys who didn't make. I think they were giving money out to top 10 at that time.
Yeah. Anyone out of the top 10 didn't get. I know some people made comments like, well, not everyone gets a trophy. Like I said, this isn't about trophies. I said, this is about, you know, they call it the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. You have to qualify to get on that stage. And to me, I don't care if you come 15th, you still did the hard work to get on the Olympia stage. Even if you're out of the top 10, you should take home something. So when that happened, I know Wayne from the IFBB gave up 1,000, then Kerry Kay's matched his 1,000. So everyone from that day got $2,000 who wasn't in the top 10. I'm not sure if they still do today or not, but
yeah, I don't think so. But I mean, you did make that change come about. And I remember distinctly, you know, you would do things like that. You would bring up things to help all your fellow athletes, and you had like almost no support from your fellow athletes because they were just afraid to rock the boat. They didn't want to get in trouble.
Yeah. And I don't know, but if you come up to me and they'll be like, Lee, we agree with what you're saying. And the thing is, too, I know people have to understand too, when I talk about this is the IFBB of old. It's not the new IFBB. I think the IFBB now is tired of
for a clothing company.
Now, and the way people are doing things now, it's a lot better than what it was, you know. But, you know, Wayne and I would have our run-ins, but yet I still sort of respected Wayne because, you know, after the 2002, where we had that big argument the night before at the athletes meeting about an article I did in MD, of course. I thought I wasn't going to place. And after the show, he's like, "Are you surprised you won?" I said, "Well, Wayne, after the argument, I didn't think I was even going to place." He goes, "No, Lee." He goes, "I'll tell you one thing." He goes, "I respect you." He goes, "You might run your mouth and say stuff like that." He goes, "It's all in fun." He goes, "But," he goes, "you're asking that article why I do what I do." He goes, "Because I can say, do this. You might say something about it and I'll suspend you, but the other 99 guys would do what I say. That's why I do it." So I gave him props for being honest with me. So I was like,
yeah, I mean, but you know, it's funny because my son doesn't follow bodybuilding. I mean, a little bit. He knows, he's been around it his whole life, so he knows who all the big names are. But I wouldn't call him a fan of the sport. But he watched the trailer to this, and just that got him intrigued. He wanted to watch it. He's like, "This guy sounds like a badass." You know, you were a man of integrity. You didn't sell out, even though you were punished many times. How many times were you suspended?
I think 4 to 5, and then I had that lifetime ban, which Bob says I never got. But Bob's like, "Why would you never got one?" I said, "Bob, I did." I said, "I couldn't even go into expos. I couldn't even go watch my friends compete in an IFBB in a show in Australia. They wouldn't even let me in the front door." So, but yeah, I had a letter from Harris Kagan, and Bob's like, "Well, show the letter." I'm like, "Bob, this was back in 09, 010. I got that letter from Harris Kagan. I don't keep it anymore. Wished I had it, but yeah, Harris Kagan, wasn't he the secretary of the IFBB or something back then?" So yeah, everyone knew. It's like everyone knew I was suspended from life because they'll tell me. Even Tony Doherty knew. So I was like, "What? I'm just making this up." It's like, come on, give me a break.
Yeah, and you were fined a few times too, thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I think I almost anywhere between 17 to 20,000 I paid in fines.
Oof, good Lord.
Back then, that was probably more than some people were winning.
Oh, hell yeah, it was. Of course.
I remember one year I almost had to hold out. I'm like, because I wanted to do the Olympia, and my suspension ended just after the Olympia, so I had to pay I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to pay the fine so I can compete in the show. So I think I paid $5,000 to go in there. I'm not sure. Oh, I might have placed in the top 6 that year, so I might have broke even and got some back.
Wow. So, you know, knowing you have no regrets. There's nothing you said. Is there anything in this documentary you wish hadn't been put in there, or do you have zero regrets? Like,
no, zero regrets, because you have to remember, you know from my articles in the day, I never attacked anyone personally. I was just talking about the organization as a whole. And I was on a podcast the other day. I was even talking about how when they had that first South Beach Pro in Florida, it's just something like backstage. I remember there was no water, and I just said something to someone about having no water and this and that, and they went running to Wayne. "Lee's being difficult backstage." I was like, "It's only water," he's saying. I'm like, "It's only water to you, but when guys are dehydrated and dieted down, a bottle of water means a lot." I know it's trivial, but I said, just treat the athletes with respect. And then not long after that, they come back and go, "Guys, you got 30 minutes, just relax." So we'll just relax. Then he comes back 2 minutes later. "Guys, quickly, you got to get on stage now, undress and get out." We're like, what? I said, okay. So he was starting to put oil on. "You haven't got time for oil or pump up, get out." I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "We've been training and dieting. If we're walking out on stage, we want to look at best." He goes, "It's just for introduction. They just call your name and hit a pose." I said, "It doesn't matter. If we go out not pumped up and no oil, people get pictures of that. We look like shit." It's like, "Well, you got to get out there." I said, "How about you go ahead and start the fucking show without us?" And he goes back to Wayne. "Lee's being difficult again." I'm like, fuck. All I wanted was, look, I know promoters have to make money in that, but all I wanted was fairness for the athletes and the organization. You got to give and take. And I used to always tell the athletes, you know, because they'd always come up to me, "We agree with what you're saying, Lee, but we don't want to say anything." I said, "Why not?" I said, "If it's just me, they can suspend me." I said, "When we have like those athletes meeting before the Olympia, like a night or two before," I said, "Look, we just want fairness. If we all, like, rather than give Wayne that letter, if all of us athletes had sat in that meeting and said, listen, if from 10th place down doesn't get money, none of us are walking on stage on Saturday. They got sponsors, they sold tickets. They're not going to cancel the show." So the athletes have the power if they all stuck together. Because too, you have to remember, we paid for our pro card, and in that thing it says we're independent contractors. Look, it would be different if we signed a contract with the IFBB and they're paying you money to be a part of the organization. But if I'm an independent contractor, that's why I argued the point, why can't I go compete with the PDI when there's no IFBB shows? Because that's what I do as a bodybuilder. I compete to make money. If you've got no shows on at this point, why can't I go compete in another show? It's like, that's bodybuilding, you know, but nah. So I always just tried that. But too, yeah, I'm one of those too. I'm not, you know, some people like Jay Cutton that are very diplomatic. I just come at you like a bull at the gate. So it's like,
yeah, it's Jay. I'm really amazed. Did you help facilitate these interviews? Like contact these people?
No, I know there was one or two on there. I'm not going to say names, but I really wanted Wayne to be on it because Wayne could have talked about the suspensions. He would have been perfect on why he suspended me. He could have talked about me going to the PDI and everything else, but there was just a couple on that tape who said if Wayne was on it, they wouldn't be on it. And that sort of thing. I'm like, why not? I said, it's my documentary because I thought they might get in trouble. I'm like, it's my documentary. It's about me and my life. It's got nothing to do with you. You can still be on it, but, you know, so they didn't put Wayne. I'd like to get a separate interview of Wayne, maybe to put up on YouTube or something.
Well, I mean, every suspension and fine you ever got was levied by Wayne, I believe.
Yeah, because even that first one I got, I think it was the first year they had that Houston show. Was that 94, 95, somewhere around there? And I did the first, like the Iron Man, the Arnold, and then the San Fran. I think the Houston was a couple of months later, but I qualified for the Olympia, so it would have been like 22. Yeah, just turned 22. It would have been like one of the youngest to do the Olympia. So I went to see Joe and said, listen, can I pull out of the Houston show and just wait for the Olympia so I can come in my best? And Joe said, yes. So I didn't do it. Next thing, you're suspended. You didn't do the show. And I said, but Wayne said, I said, Joe said I didn't have to. And Wayne's like, I run these fucking shows, not Joe Weider.
Yeah, it's true. It was a weird time. It was I'm glad this video went into depth on a lot of the way the organization used to handle the athletes, because as bad as people think things might be now, I say, you should have been around 20, 30 years ago. It was a shit show back then. These guys have it so much better now.
Oh yeah, 100% better now. And even like you might not agree sometimes, but it's good that Tyler takes the time out and comes on and explains judging criteria and stuff. Like, look, I don't agree. You know, Tyler bringing in that fit bod division. I'm like, oh God, do we have to have another division? I don't agree with it. To me, it's like, to be a pro, you're the elite of the elite in any sport. Yeah. If I want to be an NBA player, are they going to bring the hoop down 4 foot for me so I can shoot the ball? If I want to be a baseball player, are they going to make the bat bigger because I can't hit with the little bat? If I wanted to go run at the Olympics and get a gold medal, I can't run under 10 seconds. Is the Olympic going to be like, hold on then, let's make a 20-second class for the people? It's like, to be a bodybuilder or whatever, that's the elite. And I'm sorry, yes, everyone might want to get a pro card, but a lot of you don't deserve one because you don't have the genetics, you don't have the makeup. You might just be a great amateur your whole life, and that should be good enough. But now we're watering it down so much, it's like, it's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Giles and I just talked about this on a podcast. I mean, because I came from it, I'm even older than you. I remember when there was just bodybuilding. If you didn't have enough muscle to compete in the only division that was available, which was bodybuilding, you had to keep training until you did. And if you didn't, oh well, then you don't get to compete. You're not at that level. So
that's the thing. Bodybuilding takes years. It's almost like we're giving them classes now. Because, like, I'm sure in the beginning, I would have looked like a men's physique as I'm growing, and then you finally grow into a bodybuilder along the way. But it's like they're bringing it down there, because I think even Tyler said this class now is even like a softer look than the bikini, so more can get on stage quicker. It's like, it's not about getting on stage quicker. It should be like, if you want to keep it in the amateurs, I understand. But to be a professional elite, it should be the best of the best. And like, that's why I argue with the 212. They're like, with there's no 212, guys will give up. I said, listen, if you love bodybuilding, you're not going to quit, because we have Hardy, Derek, so many 212 champions now who are in the open who would have got there anyway. It just would have taken a little bit longer. So it's just like this. I think it just should be that way, you know.
I want to run another clip from, I did tape a couple clips from it. This is shows people how good you were at a very young age.
Was for a clothing company. When he took his t-shirt off, my jaw dropped, because all you saw was this fresh-faced 15-year-old kid with his blonde hair and his bright eyes. And when he took his shirt off, I was like, oh my God. And this is a 15-year-old kid with the most insane body.
No, he every month you could see him going. Fast forward to 1989, I had ended up with my own gym, and Lee started training there as a 16-year-old. I remember that our first gym Christmas party, we're in the pool playing games, and again, I'm at my peak, I'm 120 kilos. Lee's come behind me and grabbed me in like a little bear hug, and I just thought, I'll just break out of this. I can't move. This 6-year-old kid has got me, and a grown man, 50 kilos heavier, just can't budge him. So that was.
Yeah, I mean, I like that, because a lot of this current generation, the Gen Z kids who follow bodybuilding from TikTok and Instagram, they don't realize that there were bodybuilders in the past who were very, very good at a young age. Sullick is like, I think Sam Sullick's like 22 already. The Trend Twins are like 21, 22. But I'm thinking Lee Priest won the Mr. Australia twice while you were still a teenager, correct?
I won at 17, 18, and 19.
3 times. Jeez. So, you know, and that was just a small, they did a great job. I don't know how much you helped with getting pictures and videos, but there's so much old footage, photos. Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, you know, if you died tomorrow, God forbid, that's going
to be on my mind now. And Ron would be like, I did the last interview with Lee Priest.
I can use that to my advantage. But no, I mean, this is such a great legacy because obviously you're done competing, I think. You know, you're.
Yeah. You know, if I never had that nerve damage and that muscle atrophy here, because like this side's great. And it's like, I think people noticed too, when I was at the Arnold last year and had photos taken with some current bodybuilders, because they don't see me around a lot of people. When they do, they're like, fuck, Lee's still holding his size for 52 and that still got the muscle there that I had back then. So if this didn't happen, I would do the, well, if they let me, I would do the Masters Olympia.
Yeah. And I mean, you go in, people like Ed Connors and Paul Dillette go into how very, very mild you were with the drug usage. Which
I just did a big interview on the podcast with Dr. O'Connor and that.
That's right.
I was reading some of the comments. People like, he's lying. He's lying. Like, why would I lie? I've always been honest about everything. And in my gears, you would know because we probably did articles talking about it. Yeah. I've always said the exact amount because I want people to know if you are going to use it, don't abuse it. And I want you to know that you can make gains on small amounts. But everyone now, because they read so much shit on the internet, oh, these pros lie, they take this, they won't tell you the truth. It's like, we are telling you the truth. We've got no reason to lie because what I take might not work. Feels like I never once asked all these pros I was around, I never once asked them, what's your cycle? Because I couldn't care less. To me, that doesn't mean anything. What works for you and what you're on ain't going to be the same for me. That's why I don't get why so many people are so hung up on the drug side, because it's like fucking irrelevant. It's all about the training, the dedication, the consistency, the genetics. To me, the drugs were the last thing you added to the whole equation.
Yeah. When we say that they're the finishing touch, that really triggers a lot of people. But God, people get so mad. And the genetics component of it, which I think is pointed out very well when they show your progression from you started going with your grandfather at age 12, I think, to the Police Boys Club and lifting weights.
Yeah.
You know, by 14, 15 years old, you had a build that most guys could never even achieve with 10, 20 years of heavy drug abuse.
Well, I was competing in the men's open at 14, 15. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know who the interview was. It Doherty? He said he was registering people for the Mr. Australia.
Yeah, and he's like, you should do the juniors, and I'm like, no, I want to do the open. He's like, you sure now? You should do. He's like, he goes, no, he wants to do the open. So
he tried to talk you out of it, and I think you won anyway, didn't you?
Yeah.
So there you go. I want to pull up another clip because this shows that 97 Olympia in Long Beach, the infamous Long Beach Olympia.
First of all, Dorian Yates was his last show, and he was a little bit off. He had an injury. He had lost some blood. He didn't know if he was going to make it to the stage.
Dorian come out. Dorian Yates, enormous, big fella. Oh, and I thought, oh gosh, pity help the poor fella that comes out after them. And of course, it had to be little Lee coming on stage. I thought, oh, of all people to have to follow. I mean, Lee was brilliant and he looked beautiful, but I thought, oh, of all people to follow by Dorian.
And that year was the year that Nasser El Somebody probably should have won the Olympia. He looked amazing, his best ever.
It was the year that Dorian won. He'd torn his bicep or tricep or something off, and everyone thought Nasser should have won. It was definitely out of Dorian and Nasser, but I would have had Lee third. To me, it was the best Lee had ever looked. Ever. He looked unbelievable.
And I remember seeing Lee up there in the top corner. I'm like, this guy is going to make the top 6. I mean, this is unbelievable. Look at he's the shortest guy up there. He's up there with mass monsters like Dorian and Nasser, and he was very impressive at that show.
Well, the 97 Olympia, Lee was in really good condition then.
Yeah, it's the reason I wanted to bring that up is because they continually said, well, we would have placed Lee higher if he was taller. And, we've seen since then, many, many years later, obviously, Hadi Choopan, Derek Lunsford, these guys becoming Mr. Olympia. And no one ever told them, well, you could have won, but you weren't tall enough. I mean, it's kind of like, it's almost like the civil rights, where people in those years ago had to fight for the rights,
to
make things better for people today. A lot of the things you went through paved the way for athletes now, and they probably don't even realize, that they owe you a debt of gratitude.
Yeah, it's funny, I said, because the placing, watch the documentary, see how the placings changed after the show and that. But yeah, I was glad, because even like, because I'd speak my mind, and back then there's like people like, there's no politics. But then it's good to hear, because you have Jay, and they pretty much ask everyone the same question. If Lee kept his mouth shut, and they all agree, if Lee kept his mouth shut, he would have done better. I'm like, well, didn't that just prove my point? I should have been judged on my body, not my opinions. So.
Right. I only have one more clip, and then I promise no more clips. But I like this one because it had a bunch of MD covers and stuff in it.
Okay.
And obviously, I was a part of that
Because he was doing like some outrageous columns for Muscle Development at that point.
I had a pretty good contract with them for quite a few years, getting paid good money, and they always want me to be controversial, so I do controversial articles. Even Steve Blackman that ran the magazine, he was in with the in crowd, so he knew a lot of the inside information. He'd be like, hey Lee, this happened, such and such, put it in your article. So I put it in the article, I'll get in trouble. He'd be like, why'd you say that for? They said, you fucking told me to say it. It's like, how else would I have known what happened? I wasn't at that meeting, so.
I think Lee most definitely has hindered a lot of his career by being a controversial figure in the sport. But is he really controversial?
I mean, is it worth it? I mean, Lee in his book blames the judges for what's happened with, but I do too. No, I can say that.
He had a problem with judging. He really had a problem with the judging. I guess he sees things that he felt wasn't right.
I could get like second a few times at the Ironman, and then the following week I'd be in better shape at the Arnold and get a lower placing against the same people at the Ironman. So it just seems some of the bigger shows were a bit more political.
In fourth place, Lee Priest. This guy is popular. I told you how popular he was.
But also just the treatment of the athletes. For instance, backstage, you would have guys who are running backstage try to treat the athletes, the pros, like they were garbage, like trying to push them around and just like herding cattle, and things like that would piss off Lee. It would piss people like myself off, where, listen, we're the show. People, you go to Night of Champion, there would be 3,000 people, waiting out there for us to come out. And
yeah, Paul was a really good addition to this, Paul Dillette.
And it's funny watching that there. I got fourth at the Arnold. The following week, I won to San Francisco and beat all those guys.
Judging was just, they were so inconsistent back then.
Yeah.
I know there's still some of the same people judging today that were around back then, but I honestly feel that politics
it's like politics. It's like in the Senate in America, some of those senators should retire. I think some of the judges should step down and let new blood come in.
Well, I mean, yeah, we have like 85-year-old senators. I mean, there should be an age cap. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. You got I'm just thinking of some of the trouble that you used to get into just with the MD column. Hey, Steve did tell you he wanted controversy, but if there was ever backlash from it, he got, that's when he would backpedal, and he didn't like that. But
he'd be like, I don't know why Lee would say that. Yet he loved it.
One of the only times I ever got really yelled at in public at a show was Steve Weinberg at the New York Pro years ago, and it was because of something in your column. And I think it was widely known that it was your words, but I wrote the column. I guess I could have cut parts out if I wanted to, but Steve wanted controversy. He wanted people to get riled up. So I think I might have. There may be like a couple times I ever censored anything you said just because it was really obscene, like sexual stuff, maybe. But
never. I would never say that.
I for the most part, I left it as is, and there were consequences sometimes. But I think that's if you had only been known for a physique and you had no personality, no one ever knew anything beyond what they saw in pictures and videos, I don't think you'd be very popular now. I think you'd be largely forgotten, just the way a lot of guys.
Because you have to remember, my last IFBB show was 2006, and my last NABBA show was 2013. And like I said, I'm still here. I'm still doing so many different podcasts every week, and even the younger kids know me now too, because I think like Sam Sulex mentioned me sometimes, the twins say how they like me. So I think by them mentioning and showing me, it brings young kids, because I'll be at expos now and there's kids under 20. Oh, we love you, you're a legend. I'm thinking, you just weren't even born almost when I retired. So it's like, yeah, it's good for that. Like I said, because there's pros current pros who have just sort of retired or stopped competing just a few years ago, and you never hear of them again. So I'm sure the old members of the IFBB are probably like, fuck, that Lee Priest is still around. Jesus Christ, we couldn't get rid of him.
I mean, again, Giles and I on the podcast today, we were talking about the Unholy Tour. It's going to go all on.
Jesus, I'm like, where's my break in between, Giles? It's like a gym every day for.
But he also, so it's 12. I think you're doing 12 appearances in 10 days or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but he said it's the first time, and he's had people like Ronnie Coleman and Wesley Vicious. He says some big names he's done tours with.
Phil Heath, yeah.
Yeah, but this is the first time he's actually had to turn down gyms that wanted, because there just wasn't enough time to do all. I think there were a couple more gyms that wanted to have you show up, but there's just no time.
I think too. I'm not going to say names, but just some of those people you mentioned, like Ronnie, Wesley, Phil Heath, and that. I won't say who, but some of the gyms are like, oh, Lee, your tickets are selling more than this person or that person. And I think he's planning in July maybe like a European type tour again, because I think we're starting in Glasgow and then going to halfway through the UK, shoot across to Belfast, and then come back to the UK again. So yeah, like I said, I'm blessed and lucky that, like I said, that I still have these fans out there that still want to listen to me talk. Because like I said, I think too, I've never put myself on a pedestal. You know, I still get embarrassed today when people want pictures or they're like, oh my God, you're Lee Priest. I'm like, listen, I'm just Lee. I'm no one special. Yes, I was a professional bodybuilder, but that doesn't make me better than you. If you're a plumber, you're a great plumber. Well, I'm no better than you just because people know who I am. I'm no one, some people get egos, whether it be pro athletes, actors, and that to me, it's like, to me, we're all the same. We're all good at something. So I've never put myself above anyone. That's why when I do my seminars, I'll talk about training, but I'll talk about stuff that's happened in my life, like even with the suicide attempts and all that sort of stuff. And I think if you just be yourself and be real, sure, some are going to hate you, but people know when you're being honest and you're just being yourself. I think people can relate more to that type of thing rather than just bullshitting people,
Well, I mean, I'm certainly not going to name names, but there are people who have more impressive contest resumes than you, let's say. They've won bigger titles than you ever won, but they don't have the popularity and they don't have that sort of, connection with the fans, because they sort of portrayed themselves in a way that they were some other species that was better than a regular human. I don't think anybody likes to be around somebody that you can sense they think they're better than you.
Right. Well, like I said, I'll always stop and shake hands with anyone, take a photo. I'm like Jay or someone, I'll always be the last to leave. Even when I was competing, my sponsors would be shocked that I'd be there the day before at the expos meeting the fans, because that's what I really competed for. Yes, I hated competing, but going to those big shows, meeting the fans was the most fun part. Even after prejudging, I'd go to the expo for a couple of hours to meet the fans, because, sometimes it's the only time these people get to see you. And there's a lot of people that's like, oh, hi, yeah, go away, don't bother me. But to me, it's like I could never do that, because I put myself in the position where if I was like a young kid or someone who, oh my God, I look up to this person, I get to meet him, and you meet him and they're like, haven't got time, piss off, kid. It's like you'd be like fucking devastated. So I always try and put myself, and I say when I talk to them too, like I said, I don't put myself above them. I talk to them on a level like this. And in the beginning, people would be like, oh, Lee's arrogant. But the thing is, in person, I'm actually a shy person. So if you say hello to me, I'm like, oh, hi. But then I won't talk. But if you start talking to me, they'll be like, oh, fuck, now he won't shut up. So it's like...
Yeah. It's funny, if I think about who sort of reminds me of that same style with the connection with the fans, I think of guys like Ronnie, I think of guys like Jake Cutler, and everywhere they go, and they've been retired for Ronnie for a very long time. There's lines around the block waiting to take pictures and say hi, because people really, they appreciate that. They appreciate someone that they can feel. There's just like me. He just happens to have this great physique that I could never have, but he doesn't look down on me because I'm not at that level.
Yeah, well, I always tried to not mold myself, but I remember seeing Tom Platz, because Tom Platz was always great with, even today, he still gets a crowd because he was always just himself and he spoke the truth when it came to drug use and stuff. And like, I'll go to expos now like, what time do you want to be there, Lee? Like, I'll be at the Arnold for Gym Reapers next year and that. And people are like, what time do you want to be there? I'm like, when's the expo start? They'd be like, 10. I'll be like, okay, I'll be from 10 to closing. What, you know? Because some people just do 10 to 12 and then that sort of thing. And it's like, to me, like I said, fans can't quite sometimes might not get to that, might be watching prejudging. So, like I said, if you're traveled from all over the world, you should be there for the fans. Because I'm thinking half these pros for the rest of the year do fuck enough. And even though I'm not a pro anymore, but I'm thinking if you do enough and or just be there for the people to see you. Yes, and the funny thing is too, because when I get there and people know I'm there, I'll have that huge line for like an hour or two of like hundreds of people. But then as the thing goes on, so I might be there for 4 hours and have this huge line.
Yeah.
Everyone's already seen me, so they go to other people, and I'll have people come out. I only have now like 20 people. People go, oh, you don't have many people. There's tons of people over there. I'm like, mate, I've been here for 5 hours already. That person just got here. So, you know.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, so the documentary, because I want to circle back to that, because Gary was kind enough to give me the screening copy to look at. I honestly think this is the best, you know, not to put any other company down. This is the best documentary about any single bodybuilder I've ever seen. Whether it was,
that's why I wanted him to do it, because I loved when I first saw the one he did with Chris Cormier. I think that was a great one. That's why I contacted Gary and said, look, if you ever want to do it, I'd like to do another one. I'd like you to be the person to do it, because I really like the way they delved into Chris's life also and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think they did a great job with this one.
Yeah, because like I said, you know, I think people are going to come away from this knowing, if I were you, I'd feel very satisfied that people know the real you now. If all they ever knew was this guy that put up the middle finger and told dirty jokes.
And that middle finger too, that wasn't even for the IFBB. That was like Per Bernal and I've been shooting all day, like for like 8 hours, like doing a lot of body parts. And just near the end, he's like, oh, Lee, fuck. He goes, I forgot to put the SD card in the camera. And I just went.
He was kidding, right? I hope.
Yeah, he had it in there. But yeah, I just went. Yeah. And he took the picture, and then somehow it came out in the thing that I'm giving the finger to the IFBB.
Yeah, we use that as the image in your column, the avatar, for like 3 years in a row. That one picture.
I actually got in trouble off Robin Chang for that, because, and I think in that article, that's where I said, fuck the Olympia, I'm going to the Arnold, because, you know, even other people said back then the Arnold Classic just treated the athletes so much better. And even if you weren't the top 10 at the Arnold, you still got $1,000. So the way the athletes were treated, they were treated like professionals. So that's why I said the Olympia treats people like shit, and Robin Chang back then didn't like it and stuff. So
yeah, I mean, you pissed a lot of people off over the years, but you know, you stuck to you're a man of integrity. I kind of always admired, because I never had the balls to be that way. I was always like, uh-oh, maybe they're going to take my press pass away, or oh no, maybe Steve.
Well, they did that one year when wasn't it John and that criticized the Olympia about something, and they took their press passes away for a year or so, remember?
I was banned for 3 years from the Olympia for press pass because of something I posted about, because it was, you know, remember, I was a good friend of Jose's. I've been a friend of Jose's for like 25 years, and it bothered me that they didn't have the Olympia title for the 212 guys, or I think it was still 202 at that time. Yeah. And it was just a thread on MD, but you know, they watched the MP, they watched that like a hawk. They monitored those forums. And I said, well, if you guys, because everyone's agreeing with me, like, yeah, why did it was called the 202 Showdown.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Like, Showdown? What the fuck is this, the Wild West? So I said, well, if you guys don't like it, you know, you could just boycott the show. And Cocoon, dude, the shit came down. I was banned I was told at the time I would never get a press pass the Olympia again. And maybe I wouldn't have, but you know, it changed ownership.
Welcome to the club. You got a suspension. But funny, next time you talk to Jose, he told me a story. I won't name names, but Jose come to Australia and I saw him. We took a photo on that, and Jose did an article. In the article, he just goes, "Oh, I really wish, you know, Lee was around still to compete in the 202, 212 class. It would have been great to stand on stage with Lee, blah, blah, blah." He gave me all these props. He got a phone call from a higher up in the IFBB and said, "Don't you ever mention his fucking name in the fucking thing." You can ask him who it was when next time you speak to him. But
wow. I mean,
like I said, I couldn't understand the hate from individuals in the IFBB high up, because I never attacked anyone personally. I'm just like, I just want this sport good for everybody. But you know,
I mean, I remember, you know, because Wayne, they hate Wayne now, obviously, because Wayne had the Wild organization. I was told by someone, you know, don't do anything with Wayne, like, ever, or else. So I never did. But yeah, that is I can't believe your name would be such a forbidden, taboo thing. Like you can't.
Did he say it still ruffles feathers with something that I'm like, why? Get over it. How long ago was that? 06?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these people that didn't like you, they're either not part of the IFBB anymore, or they're.
Like I said, I've never spoke bad of Jim Mannion. Like I said, Jim Mannion was the one who saw me at Gold's and made the phone calls to get the pro card and that. And like I said, and Tyler Mannion's doing a great job. So, I think sometimes too, I know a lot of it was like Chinese whispers. I might do something or say something, and these people have never seen it, never read it. But you know how people embellish it. Well, Lee said this and Lee said that. Then they get all rah, 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 wait till So it's like, that's not what I said at all. It still happens today in every walk of life that people take things out of context or add things to it. Where it's like, well, that wasn't really what I said at all. No.
Yeah, it's called the he said she said, the telephone game. Yeah, cool. Well, I'm going to wrap it up because it's snowing outside, and I need to take
You're lucky. We got I think it's today in Fahrenheit here today. It's going to be like 110 and humid. So I wish they had Christmas.
110. Are you serious?
Yeah, we got the summertime. We got the summertime.
You guys does the water go a different way down the drain too? It's like counterclockwise or something.
And I've always wondered. Give me 1 second. I'm going to flush the toilet, and I'll tell you. I never really looked. Hold on.
Okay. Well, this is science, folks. This is all in the name of science. So we heard about in Australia that the water flushes the other way down the toilet.
It goes anti-clockwise here. What way does yours go?
Clockwise. So it is true. It is true. So, guys, go on to Vimeo, Vimeo, and if you put in just Lee Priest as a search, it comes right up. It's like $5.
That explains a lot too. That now you know why Lee's fucking backwards, because of the water.
It is backwards. So it's an amazing watch. It's 2 hours and 17 minutes. You get your money's worth. Even if you're not a Lee Priest fan, you'd still find a lot of cool things to appreciate about this film. I think Gary and his team at MuscleVision did a fantastic job. Just the sheer amount of people that they got involved in this.
And I bet too, sorry, Kyle, but I bet too when certain people watch it, it's probably still kind of ruffles some feathers.
I'm sure.
It's got nothing to do with the new IFBB. It's like we're talking about the old days. So I hope no one in the current IFBB gets upset by it, because they should understand, even though some of them are still from the old guard in it, it's got nothing to do with them at all type thing. So,
I mean, what are they going to do to you? You know?
Lee, you're not going to the 2025 Arnold Classic Expo. We're going to stop you again.
Yeah, I think you're beyond punishment at this point.
If you don't see me at the expo, Lee would be at the local Denny's in Ohio signing autographs.
So follow. Geez, your Instagram is kind of hard for people to find. I think if you just put in Lee Priest, 1 million come up. But this is let me show people the right one.
Mm-hmm.
So
I had one that had almost 1 million followers, and it got Instagram deleted that. I started a new one, then they deleted that. So this is my third one.
They deleted? Why'd they delete your why'd they get rid of your
I went against the guidelines. I don't know, could have been arguing with somebody.
I'll tell you, every time I click follow on this, and then every time I come back to it, it's unfollowed again.
Really?
So they're not letting people follow you or something.
I know sometimes I post stuff in different, sometimes people see a lot of things, and then another time I must get shadow banned sometimes because people can't find it. Or
well, I just told you, I've had to follow every time I try to follow you. I come back to your page and and now I'm not following you again.
I'm following you. I know I'm following you.
I think so. I would hope so. Yeah. So there you go, guys. It's Lee Priest Official 72. So we can keep up with all the news on things like this video, this movie.
Suit in the backyard, all that sort of stuff.
There's the tour. The tour is way down here. And if you're in the UK, if you're lucky enough to be near any of these places next month, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Kent, London, Newcastle under Lyme, Wrexham, Welsh Belfast, Redruth, Cornwall, Planet Fitness and Tradegar, Hebron.
I didn't see that. I won't be allowed to make a noise when I go in there.
Planet Fitness. Well, I wonder if Planet Fitness over there.
What if it's just a different name? Probably totally different. They're just using the name.
Oh, Giles said there was a discussion about arranging a viewing of your film at a church.
Hey.
Oh, was I supposed to talk about that? I'm not sure, but that would be a hilarious thing to have.
do I have to wear? Because they're doing T-shirts too, and I think that pictures on the T-shirt. they're going to be selling T-shirts, and I'm like, what would be perfect would be to have the black T-shirt like this, but a bit of white material right in the collar with that picture on it.
Because Giles said he's not watching this film, Rebel with a Cause, because in case that screening happens, he wants to be able to see it with you for the first time, because he saw the Dorian documentary when they did a premiere in Birmingham a couple of years back with Dorian, as Dorian was seeing it for the first time. It was pretty cool.
I did that, like I said, I did that tour with Giles years ago, and he's put up those photos of where I cleaned his whole apartment and all that sort of stuff because I'm OCD.
Yeah, that was 28 years ago. Wow.
Oh,
is that right? Is that right? Yeah.
I was 18. Was it 28 or 18? I know. So
I'm bad. I'm not very good at math. 2006 was how many years ago? Was it 18? Oh, you're 18 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm the worst with math.
Still a long time, but in my mind, isn't it weird? Because in my mind, if you said, Lee, when did you do the last tour with Giles? I'd probably say 8-9 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, you're over 50 now. You realize that you see things come up on your Facebook or whatever. It'll say it was 10-20 years ago. You're like, what?
I know. Or a movie. This movie came out 30 years ago. You're like, what?
I remember. Didn't I just see that movie? Yeah.
I know. Sadly, that's what it's like, isn't it? Now, all the times we made fun of old people when we were young, saying, when you get older, time goes quicker. You're like, yeah, whatever, piss off. That's fucking true. It's true. So don't waste a minute, people.
Right. Well, anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. So, Lee, I'm wishing you very great success with this and MuscleVision. It's a great film, and I've seen some crappy ones. This is a whole other level. It's just so well done, so informative, and you guys, you'll walk away from this movie feeling like you know exactly who Lee Priest is, and that's something you can't say about too many of the stars of our sport.
If you do know who I am, come tell me, because I don't fucking have a clue who I am still. I'm still trying to work it out.
See, still always so self-deprecating. I love it. So that's it, guys. Thanks for watching this episode, or whatever it was, where we looked at the new film available on video, Lee Priest, Rebel with a Cause. Check it out on Vimeo. Thank you so much, Lee, for joining me as we talked about the film together. And that's it. See you guys later. Peace.